Okay. So we're going to go through today's newspaper, and we're going to do a couple of news from the previous day's newspaper as well, if time permits. Otherwise, I won't want you to do it on by yourself. Now, ED runs Gurugram office from its farmhouse. It confiscated, and PSU challenges it in court. Now, what in a comedy things of turn, what has happened is that ED has the power under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It has the power to basically seize any kind of proceeds and administer any kind of property that has been seized, and it has been linked to any kind of fraud with respect to money laundering. Now, here is a case in Delhi, in South Delhi, where a plush farmhouse, which is 2.5 acre property worth 120 crore rupees, has been taken over by ED, and you can see that it is being used very generously by the enforcement directorate for its own office. And despite the fact that there is already a loan that is there that needs to be paid to the banks with respect to this particular property. So this is again, you can use this as an example of ethics. You can use this somewhere where you fit it to be there. The important other news is Sensex and Nifty fall over 2% on new FNO changes, futures and option changes, as well as what has happened in West Asia. Now, we've been talking about this with respect to, and there was an article yesterday as well when it comes to the FNO changes. We saw that day before yesterday on the front page, then we saw it on the editorial yesterday, and the explain page, which we did not do. Now, what the explain page did talk about was that we need to curb the frenzy in the futures and options. Why? Because I've been telling you this data time and again. 90% of people who have lost money in the FNO segment, which is more than a lakh crore rupees, has been people who are middle class, who have annual income of less than 5 lakh rupees. And there has been a large amount of volume trading that has happened in the FNO section. Now, the idea of SEBI is also to protect the interest of the investors, if it feels that there's some kind of risk management and monitoring that is needed. And therefore, this FNO new measures have been taken. There are 6 new measures, of which 3 will be implemented in the month of November, around November 20th. Then 2 will be implemented in February, and then the last one will be implemented in later stage of time in the month of April. Now, what has happened? The first measure that I told you was the contract size. So the contract size that has happened is that the contract size for derivatives has been increased from 5 lakhs to 15 lakhs. And the idea is, when you increase the minimum size of the futures and option derivative, is that there is a barrier to entry. Small investors will not be able to do it for speculative activity. So you want to limit the participation from the retail sector. Then the second idea is upfront. The second measure was the upfront collection of options premium. So you need to pay premium to basically participate in this process. Now, to basically reduce the leverage and discourage any kind of excessive speculative activity. Now, all traders must deposit the premium for options upfront before entering into positions. So, I mean, rather than relying on borrowed capital, they need to pay the money in front. And because they would have to pay money in front, the premium in front. Therefore, that excessive borrowing for writing options will reduce. Then the next is weekly rationalization of weekly index derivatives. Let me show you this. Where is this? It is Give me a second. Sure. Yes. So here you have contract size, then upfront collection of premium to deny any undue intraday leverage to the end client, discourage the practice of positions beyond collateral. Collection of option premium beforehand. Then rationalization of weekly index derivatives. Now rationalization, basically what has happened is that this SEBI has said all the stock exchange to weekly to shift to frequent weekly index expiration. Now this basically shows that the short term positions that people have will also reduce. So if you read this line, henceforth each exchange may provide for derivative contracts only for one of the benchmark index with weekly expiry. So the idea is to reduce the speculative activity. The idea is to prevent excessive intraday volatility. So there used to be multiple contracts that used to be written, so that needs to be reduced. Then apart from that, intraday monitoring of positions will also be done, because large volume is being traded in this particular area. So to address the risk position creation beyond permissible limit, existing position limits for equity derivatives shall be henceforth also being monitored. So they will be monitoring that how much of intraday trading is also happening. Then finally increasing the calendar spread for expiry date, and then increase the tail risk for coverage of expiry date. Now what I want you to do is that if you are not able to understand these terms, then you just go to GPT, then search on a topic which whereby you are able to first learn what options are, what futures are. Ask GPT to give you an example of an option, and then apply of these each of these terms to understand that what this means. So if you're not someone from the field of finance, so these are all technical terms. If you're not from the field of finance and you don't want to get into all the technicalities of it, but at least understand that what is going on in terms of FNO. And the idea of the entire FNO, regulating this entire FNO sector, is to protect the small investor, because the small investor is not knowledgeable, b he does not know that what kind of risk that it entails. And the other area is that it is only the big fishes who are actually earning through this, rather than the small player. So these are the issues that you need to read from this particular paper. And now, because the FNO sector has been regulated, the implications have been seen in the stock exchange market, where we are seeing that the stock markets had fallen. Apart from the fact that the markets have also fallen because of the crisis that is unfolding in West Asia because of Iran attacking Israel. Then the other important news, which is also very important, also from the economics optional point of view, is that household ownership of equity surges to 21.5%. Now, what this basically article is saying, that now traditionally households were holding, in the last few years, were holding around 15%, 16%, 17% of the entire equity market. Now what we are seeing is that the household, especially after COVID, the household sector has reinvigorated, and then they have invested a lot in the stock markets, in the equity market, directly or indirectly, directly through buying stocks, indirectly through buying mutual funds. And this is more of that of a developed country. If you see, the ownership is around 21-22%, and this is much higher as compared to developed markets, excluding US, because in US this is around 40%. But excluding US, if you see, our market are maturing, our households are investing in the market, and that is what we are seeing here. and that is one of the reasons for folks. If you have to answer the question why deposit rates in India, the Indian banking system are going down, one of the reasons is that the if you see that the equity is surging in the domestic household share of equity is surging. So that is one of the reasons. So this entire article talks about this issue, and then how the mutual funds have also increased and how the equity market has also increased. So you can read about this. Then the third article is, which is a very important article from a geography point of view as well. U.S. cedes Chagos Island sovereignty to Mauritius, keeps base at Diego Garcia. India hails deal. Now, I want you to see the map of Indian Ocean just below Maldives, and Lakshadweep, Maldives, and then you will see this country called Mauritius, and in between you will have these group of islands which are called as Chagos Island. Now Chagos Island was basically, it was earlier a French colony. In 1850 it was uninhabited. In 1850 it was transferred to UK, and then from UK, it became part of UK, and in 1968, I guess, if you read it, Mauritius got it independence, but it decided to keep Chagos with itself, and in fact, it had leased one part of Chagos, which was Diego Garcia Island, with US to operate a military base. So they have, US and UK have a military base in the Diego Garcia island of this entire archipelago. Now, what has happened is that this there was this issue. It was raised in the UN as well. It was raised in the International Court of Justice as well. And because and India also basically participated in all these rounds and of talks between Mauritius and UK, and this is an example of our diplomacy skills and our interventions. That what has happened is that now Chagos Island has now Mauritius has gained sovereignty, except for Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is now on a 99-year lease to the Britain from Mauritius. So this is the entire news, and you will see the same news being repeated in the explained page of this newspaper. Then let's come to, yeah, the long arm. The long arm is the article that we were talking about yesterday. We talked about the fact that Income Tax Office has had a crackdown on five NGOs, including one of the most respected NGOs, which is Center for Policy Research. And what has happened is, in the last few years, why this article is called as the long arm is that any particular NGO which basically deals with any company which is maybe a favorable company of the government of India, for example Adani's or JSW Steel. So these NGOs had basically highlighted the plight of people, and the developmental issues associated with these companies. And what has happened is that using weaponizing FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulatory Act, the Income Tax Office has and the IT sleuths have basically reached to these NGOs, and told them that, see, you're not operating as per your mandate, and the purposes of your NGO are exceeding what you had initially said. And what they're doing is, every particular organization runs with funds. They're trying to curtail their funds by blocking their NGO certification, as well as blocking their FCRA funds. So this is the way, basically, how this entire income tax department is basically becoming a long arm and an extended arm of the corporates, to basically scare, it's like a scare tactic for any of these NGOs, that not to basically interfere in anything which is of developmental concern, which is of national interest, and which basically harms the development process and the overall sustainability of our development as well, because there is a role of NGOs to bring justice, to bring all any kind of injustice if there is there to light. So you can read about this. Then elephant in the room, we had read this article yesterday in the front page, that there is, every 5 years there is a elephant survey that happens, elephant census that happens, and this time around we used statistical technique. Usually we used to follow something called as counting dungs and counting animal head count approach. This time, just like tigers, we use a statistical estimation approach, and what we have found is that the number of elephants have reduced significantly. But the government did not publish this report because it said that the northeast survey has not been done. Despite that, what we are seeing is that the number of elephants have reduced because of the fact that there is a huge amount of animal and human conflict that has happened. It's because of the fact that a number of linear projects, railway projects, infrastructure projects, power projects have been there, and because of that, the habitat of large animals like elephants have been fragmented, and because of this fragmentation, you are seeing lesser number of animals. So another important news from environment that you need to cover. Then a beautiful article written by Pratap Bhanu Mehta. Now this is where see why I asked you to read the article as well. See, I did because of paucity of time. I did do GPT for this particular article, but the moment that I saw the GPT, I said I read the GPT version and then I read the original article, and they were two different stories altogether. It was nowhere comparable to what is there. So at times there are problems with GPT driven this thing as well. Now what this article basically says is that, and if you read the GPT version, you will see, just put it to GPT and you will see what this article says. It will say that what are the issues, and why, what are the problems with one nation one election. But if you read the article, you will see that Pratap Bhanu Mehta says that, see, the traditional problems that people are pointing out towards one nation one election, are there are limited arguments, and he is both for and against one nation one election. So it's a very good critical article that has been written, which basically writes both sides. But at the same point of time, the language that he writes with is a little obtuse kind of or a difficult kind of a language that he uses. Now the first thing he basically says is that uh, the elections, why do people say that there should be one nation, that one time there should be elections? It's because of the fact that there is a lot of impatience and clutter of domestic politics, that you first have state elections, then you have central elections, and there is a lot of clutter. But at the same point of time, there is an argument that that people make, that what will happen is that if you have simultaneous elections, that national elections will the party at the center will stand to gain, because these issues might take center stage. But what Pratap Bhanu Mehta also rightly points out is that, suppose the central government is not paying heed to a state issue or a local area, then what will happen is that the local issue will conflate into the national issue, and therefore you will see lesser number of seats at the national election as well. So the flow is not just from one side, it is not just from the center to the states, but the implication could also be from the states to the center as well. So this is what is being talked about in the first part of the article. Then there is another thing where you have just a second. Um, presidential, yes, this unidirectional. Then you have diminution of power. So basically it says that people have also said that the power of the representatives and the legislative assembly is will reduce because of single elections. But the thing is that never has been the no confidence motion, or the because of the anti defection law, the way it is framed, there is no power with the individual legislator as well. Interestingly, he also points out the fact that if you have, so suppose you simultaneously have elections, then if you have any kind of this thing, no confidence motion, then in that case the person who basically says that the confidence is not there should not be able to have backroom discussions and then become the CM of that particular state. They should in fact seek a fresh mandate, and seek a fresh mandate for the period that is remaining in the term. So for example, just like in Maharashtra, suppose that it's a 5-year term, and in between the government falls, there is a no confidence motion, then that doesn't mean, it shouldn't mean that the opposition directly comes to power. There should be seeking of public this thing support as well, and you will only serve for the period which is remaining. So that is one suggestion that is being given. At the same point of time, see, instead of one big bang, and this is one criticism that I do agree with, that instead of having one big bang reform of one nation one election, let's have small reforms that are much more meaningful, and through which we are able to have a much more better control over the elections on the country. Then you have another article, writers in an AI future. It's a good article which talks about that whether writers will be replaced by AI. Now the author basically talks about the fact there are two kinds of, and this is probably how you can write an essay. So this is a good example of essay writing. Now what the author basically writes is that, see, you cannot answer questions like these in black and white, or yes or no. You need to understand the context and then write. For example, in the first case, if there are some kinds of writers who basically break the mold, who personalize their entire experience, and then who are making fresh ideas and innovative concepts and groundbreaking research, that still cannot be replaced by AI. But if you are writing in a template, and all you are doing is regurgitating and organize ideas, then probably yes, AI in some time will be able to take your job away. So the idea, she says, the idea of writing is a very deeply personal journey, and if that is how you see writing, then AI cannot replace it. But still, there is a lot of room for adaptation of AI, because it helps you organize, as I told you. In our case also, AI helps us organize, manage our time, and put our focus where our focus should actually be, rather than on ancillary issues. So this is where the article is good. Then if you want to read an article because this is the period of student politics, you can probably read this. Student politics is future facing, and then tale of narrowing ambitions. Manish Tiwari talks about the fact that before 1991, the kind of debate that used to be there was much more larger, because there were two thoughts, school of thoughts that were existing: the market school of thought and the state school of thought. But after 1991, this thing has reduced. Whereas Lalu Prasad Yadav right now is writing that student politics is future facing and is extremely important. Then please read this article, the China's BRI versus US IED FC back projects. Just a second, folks. Yes, internship pilot M&M Amblic Max Life kicks off the scheme by listing 1,777 positions. We've already talked about the entire thing in the budget as well. Please read about this in detail, because it's important from next year's prelims. Then Next is explained inescapable, inevitable why North Bihar sees a lot of floods. Now, this is a very, very important article because every year in North Bihar you will see flooding, and you will see all these rivers which are tributary of Ganga, Kosi, Mahananda, Bagmati, Budi Gandak, Gandak, Ghagra, all these are northern rivers. So you develop the river system for Ganga, and you will see all these rivers are extremely important because they flow with a lot of power from Nepal. And Kosi especially is important because it is also called as the sorrow of Bihar. So we need to see both engineering and non-engineering solutions. Engineering solutions could be dams and embankments and other things, but you need non-structural solutions like laws, policy, risk reduction, mitigation, all these adaptation methods that we need to see if we want to reduce the impact on life and property. This is the first part of the article. The second article is India and West Asia crisis. This article basically says that India is invested in all these countries. For example, India has a strong relationship with Iran, the Chabahar port, the expats that we have, the amount of oil that we take from Iran. So all these oil policies basically impact India as well. And then Israel also, it's a major relation with us in terms of agriculture, in terms of technology, in terms of defense exports. So we have huge stakes in this particular region. And for I mean for us, the stable West Asia is extremely important. Then the next last article is why shoggers matter, and UK keeps Diego Garcia after Mauritius deal. Now you can read this particular article. I've already dealt with this article, and I've told you that what happened in 1965, 1814, and then the strategic military base that now this country has. So with this, we wrap up our newspaper, folks. I will see you on Monday, and we will cover the newspaper of Monday. Thank you very much. I'll see you there. Bye bye.